Yes.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Glenny.
Hello, Mr. Watland.
You're looking stout and fine today.
Thank you. You too. You too. You have a
Thank
great. You have
you.
a great head. You have a
It's more
good.
so thank you.
You have a good
I
head for a bald, like for a shave.
I just yeah.
You have
It
a.
was a special occasion, and so I shaved my head like I do.
There you go. All right. Welcome everybody to the Think Philosophers. Your host tonight, me, Mike, and of course the man, the one and only Eddie.
Hello.
Uh,
I'm the one and only.
the one and only, the one and only Watland.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So today, Mitch, who I think has been deceased now for some time, in our group chat put in that there is apparently, I'm scrolling back to it. Come on. He pretty much proposed the question, if they proposed cameras in public school classrooms, kindergarten through high school, who do you think would object more? The students, parents, students slash parents, or the staff? And I guess someone proposed this for colleges and the staff freaked out about it. This is what Mitch is saying, and said no. They said there was an issue during COVID when teachers weren't happy with parents seeing the classes taught online. Um, or how is having cameras in classrooms for high school different than remote learning? Eddie, you start. What do you think about cameras in classrooms, kindergarten through high school?
Well, if it's privacy, it is freedom of speech. Um, and you don't get to onesie and twosie it. It's the age old thing, whether what have you got to hide? What's going on in the classroom that you want to hide something? But then I did recall something. It was an epiphany moment. Having a background somewhat in audiovisual and stuff like that. Entrepreneur magazine, I'd say 2005 or something like that. And it gave one of those, oh, wise people, listen and learn. And then it was about wiring preschools or private schools, kindergartens with cameras. And then the parents pay a monthly subscription fee and you can watch your children, if
Did
there's any
you did you say
misconduct or
that in the
anything.
chat or was that Mitch?
I
I,
did.
I
I did
scrolled
say that
past
in the
that. Okay,
chat.
yeah.
I did say that in the chat, and I was like, "Wow, that's a fantastic idea. That is an absolute because you just hook it up, the cameras run themselves, and this is before Wi-Fi or anything, and then it's a done deal. And how can you not like that? Well, what if everybody can't afford that, or they just don't want their child filmed? But then again, what parent of a small child doesn't want to have um, eyes available on their kids? But then again, you're going to be scrutinized every second of every minute. Ooh, and that I guess that's a point. Because what if I don't like something you're saying as a college professor? You know,
Hmm.
and but that's interesting. And okay, you could still say something you don't like as a college professor. It's freedom of speech, not freedom that I need to agree with your speech.
Exactly.
So it's a variety of things. Okay, well, okay, I'm going to pose it right back to you.
Hmm.
So, would you want your rehearsals at UNLV filmed? Would you want rehearsals at Chafee colleges, cameras all over you looking at,
So
would
I
you?
think I think it would when we're talking about cameras in classroom in general, I
Mm-hmm,
think college and like mandatory like high school, public school are kind of different things.
mm-hmm,
When it comes to college, I don't see a big deal, honestly. Either way, like if you're paying to be there and you know there's a camera in there, I think Mitch or somebody in the chat even said like, well then, I mean this we're talking strictly college now, but so then they're like, well, what's the incentive for the student to go to class if they could just watch the lecture online? And in my head, if I worked for the university, I wouldn't give a fuck. Are you paying tuition? Okay, here's the fucking link if you don't want to come to class.
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to do that. I tried taking one online course and I didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
Um, but but that's still an option as long as they're paying tuition. Who gives a shit? With the technology this day, it would take hardly any capital or money to set it up. So I think that's not a problem. Now, as far as kindergarten through high school, um, and then real quick back to college, as at least unless you're like a younger person who goes to college early, you're an adult, 18 and up, who knows they're being filmed.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever. When it comes to kindergarten through high school, though, I actually like the idea too. It's kind of like you said, like if you are one of these crazy parents who like goes to the school board meetings to scream at teachers and stuff. This is transparency showing what the teacher's doing at all times. Um, and so there is, I'm not sure if it was in the chat, but like the comparison to a body cam for cops. I get the first instinct as a teacher to get a little defensive. Like, why do you need to watch me? Like, what, like, kind of like a lot of cops were against body cams at first. But on the other side of that, if that's your first instinct, like, example, this is different, but like when we years ago first started putting cameras up at the bar to watch employees and guests alike, there were a split amongst our staff. There were some bartenders who were like, why do you feel the need to watch us? Like, why do you do this? And then other bartenders who were like, I'm an honest bartender. I could give a shit if you have a camera on me. I'm gonna still work the way I work. I don't care. So there was immediately kind of like, what do you have to hide? Why are you against having these cameras up? And so with teachers, I get being extra scrutiny is always more pressure, but I think it's a win all around. If I was a teacher, I wouldn't mind it. In fact, I would encourage it. So if little Johnny Smith goes home and is telling his mom that the teacher is just unfair to him and picks on him and this and that, I could tell the mother, watch the camera. Watch the camera and see what happens in class.
But then
if you're overworked,
if you're overworked and underpaid already, how much do you want to be an arbiter? Because adversely, it's like the kid's not doing anything. There's no complaints. Everything's fine, but the Karen parent wants to get involved now for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, but I think the camera in the classroom, it pushes back on that. Because now instead of the mom, because I think I was talking to someone how in the recent years, the shift of blame is actually, who was I talking to? I was literally listening to an episode of me and Mitch was bringing it up when it popped in my car. But this shift has been, or the blame has shifted to the teachers now instead of the parent going, what is my kid doing wrong? The parent's going, you're not teaching correctly. So if I'm a teacher and I have a camera in my classroom, especially if it's like on a cycle to maybe where it records every 2 weeks before it recycles through, and there's an issue and they're like, my son's telling me that you're not a good teacher. My son's telling me that you're mean to him. My daughter's saying that you're picking on her. I would say, cool. Here's the the history, the 2 weeks. Feel free to look through there, and whatever issue you find with me, we can talk about it. But you are making this claim that I'm a bad teacher. Watch the footage, roll the clip, and tell me where I'm doing it wrong, and watch the behavior of your child. So I think in public school, you're paying taxes. If you're one of these parents who go to this, like I said, the school board meetings, and you're mad about stuff, this is perfect for you. As a parent, I would love it. As a teacher, at least an honest teacher, I would love it because now I have insurance.
It's like a body cam. It's like a police body cam. It's like, well, there you go. Here's what it is.
And I know the police body cams got a little pushback, but the same deal. If I'm a good cop, I'm like, no, put a body cam on me. So if something happens, I have evidence. I have my own insurance. And if you're a shit cop, then, well,
Well, if anything, I have more respect for police officers because, and there are YouTube channels with what they have to go through and just the amount of crap that they got to deal with, and it's like, that's one aspect, but, a lot of society's woes get put on teachers as well. So there's a safety issue, there's a privacy issue, and then there's this like unreasonable oversight issue, but just, okay, the parent's going to have, because it's their child. And when you say child in front of anything, child care, child this, it gets the headlines, if you're doing it for the children, even if you're an a-hole parent, the woes that you brought on your child are going to be reflected in the classroom, and I'll just leave it at that.
Obviously with restrictions, I think if, the teacher gets there early in the morning to do work before class, like no one needs to watch that. So like, and if you have parent teacher conferences, like that camera doesn't need to be on 24 hours a day. You don't want somebody spying in on your parent teacher conference who has nothing to do with it.
Okay, so putting the ball in another court, my first job was at Earthlink Network, an internet service provider, and that we were encouraged to surf the internet if we were not doing anything. Go. Why are you just staring out into space? And of course, everybody was surfing throughout their entire shift. and I knew the accent, the speed at work that I had, a T3 line back in the day, it's the fastest you could get. It was a shared network. So I was like, okay, how can I spend this bandwidth? So I went to look for live cams back when they were a commodity. There was a live cam in a pizza shop. I think it was in New Jersey,
Mhm.
and you could control the live cam in the direction it went. And I just remember, I don't think anybody went to the pizza shop, but I just went moving it. And then the guy working behind the counter was all like, just staring at it. It's like, oh, great, somebody's watching me. He doesn't know as the boss. No, it was some dude at a desk,
Across the
uh,
country.
cross country, 3 time zones away, just watching you not do anything at the register. But, I could tell he wasn't happy about that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, yeah, and he's probably just working, but I think in regards to like random people, I think it'd be one of those things like if so your kid enrolls or new class, the new school year coming up, your kid goes to school, and as a parent, you get the link for that camera. So it's not like public access.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And you don't have the links to other cameras. You just have
Mm-hmm.
your kid's camera. Um, yeah, I think it's a good idea, to be honest.
Yeah, if it was there, and yeah, I don't know, we're kind of on the same page. I'd like to hear a dissenting argument on this. Okay, so there's a privacy, unreasonable oversight, and I think, well, it's at the college level too. So let's put it down. But then again, okay, so there could be a system in place. This presumes that there's a system. Your child is in this class. You have a reason to access the feed. you know,
Yeah,
and then who's the oversight behind that? Let's make sure that,
there.
that there aren't perverts watching your kids. I think that's a great
Yes.
fear too,
Yeah, I mean
you know?
that's where like there would have to be contingencies, there'd have to be restrictions, we need to
Mhm.
be regulated to where who has the access to this at what times. Like there would be a lot more to it than just a camera in the classroom that anyone could access.
Mhm. And that, yeah, there's oversights right now,
Yeah.
Do you
So
want to sit in the American Express lounge? Well, do you have a specific kind of card? No. Okay. You don't have access. Same thing, except with kids.
yeah, and so no, I agree with the I would understand. I think the concerns would be more emotional based, obviously, than pragmatically based,
Hmm.
for a good reason. Like even even if you're not doing anything wrong, forget the kid. Like even if you're not doing anything wrong, but then at your job, your boss sets up a camera watching you. It's like when a cop drives by and you're not speeding, you're still going, "Am I doing something wrong?" So there
Yeah.
is kind of a level of paranoia about that on the teacher side, but yeah, I think as long as I would struggle to try to think of someone who would have a strong dissenting opinion.
Hmm.
Concerns, yes, but someone who was 100% against it, I'm finding it hard to find a strong argument for 100% against it.
Hmm. I guess it would be then the teachers, because who wouldn't want to
Maybe,
look
yeah.
after their child? But then there's the privacy of the teacher, but then
Uh,
look at who you're working with. It's
yeah.
like you don't get it. You're working with people's kids.
So here's a dissenting argument that I could actually see from the teachers.
Hmm.
So if this is a live cam, so like hypothetically, let's say that it's not recording, it's just a live cam. It's not like the teacher or the parent could just access it later. It's just live all the time. And the teacher's watching. And I'm sorry, the parent's watching live. And pick a topic, something. The teacher says something the parent
Hmm.
finds to be inappropriate. Make
Hmm.
something up in your head. That parent now can call the school in real time
Hmm.
and say, take my kid out of that class, or that teacher needs to be talked to. And so there is a risk now of live disruption in the teaching environment, depending on how they handled it. Maybe they would say, we'll talk to her, review the footage. But assuming like the parent can now even drive down to that classroom and pull their kid.
Hmm.
Now, whether
Okay.
or not, like I said, we're just talking about the parent perceives as inappropriate.
Hmm.
Um, So there is now, from the teacher perspective, a risk of live disruption as well. If a parent can see what, instead of addressing it later, a crazy parent or just an overly concerned parent could interrupt the classroom environment in real time.
Hmm.
I think that
Okay.
could be a
Well,
concern.
it either gets done in real time or it gets done after somebody takes a video of something, like a teacher, dressing up and doing a Native American dance in Riverside, or teacher in Bell, was it, or some that district, who just didn't have any respect for the military and also served in City Hall. And that meeting was really interesting because, yeah, you had a bunch of veterans show up and wanted the guy ousted. And he was going to sit there until he just couldn't take the heat anymore. And he ate his way. Well, those are his words. That was his freedom of speech. And yeah, there was consequence behind them.
No
There
freedom
was
of
reaction
consequence.
to them. But then again, you have those same things. Yes, it can be. Then again, does it really matter who benefits from the live feed? It's the security of the child. But then again, if somebody is doing, something that I disagree with or something that I don't disagree with, well, it can be reviewed and then it goes up to the administrator anyway. So you're either getting it live or you're going to see it on channel 4, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the camera footage going to like the news or something, I think that's also a concern.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, overall, I think it'd be good because, like you said, to me, it's just accountability. It's kind of covering your bases. Like, even I would even go to say maybe not even make it live, but if a student's parent wants to review footage at any time, they should be allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
That way, there's no live interruptions or anything. It's kind of more secure. Um, and then, like I said, a parent could go and just watch it in a delay, obviously, at some other point. If their kid comes home crying because Mrs. Jones was mean to him, they can put in a request. Hey, can I log into the system and watch that camera?
Mm-hmm. Are you
Uh,
ready to pay for it? Are you ready to pay more taxes to cover that?
I mean, if
Because then you
Toads was
need,
saving so much money, right? We should have
yeah,
the
well,
money
that's
to pay for it.
federal. That's federal. California, what? Oh, they were giving away checks a couple tax cycles ago, but now it's like, okay, and same with San Diego. It's like, okay, we're America's finest city, but we might have to get rid of the bonfire rings. It's like, are you kidding me? That's why people.
But yeah, actually, I don't see it costing that much in taxes, to be honest with you. Like it,
Mhm,
I mean, granted, it's different, but like we at the bar, we set up a security system pretty easily.
mhm.
I even learned how to run the Cat 5 myself and like connect it and all that shit. So I mean, like it's
Well,
pretty
you can't do
easy.
it if it's a state school and it's public. We got
Yeah,
to do bids and we
yeah,
got to
touche,
do this and
touche.
everything. And then, we're not just going to do this one school because it might be a friend of yours. We've got to go with this contracting company and then it's got to be done during summer. And then
Yeah,
after that, it's administration. Who's going to administer it? Something occurred at this high school. And if it goes to the third party, they don't give a rat's ass about the data. So what are you going to do? You're going to create another entity that's governed by the state and then is going to be mismanaged or whatever and have bloating. And then you're
fair
back to
assumption.
square one.
That's
But,
actually
you're in terms of the spirit.
that's actually probably the strongest argument against it, I think, that
Mm-hmm.
one could make is simply, granted, we don't have to go into like the politics of it, but even like you talk about the border wall,
Mm-hmm.
and Trump went to the border wall, the liberal perspective was like, no, it's bad. Whereas I morally, ethically don't have anything against the border wall. I was more
Mm-hmm.
concerned about the funding of it. And I think that could be the argument here is even if this is all good and dandy idea, what is the backside of it? Of like you said, because you hit it on the head. My point with the bar where I'm doing it myself, you're right. When it comes to public funds, you can't just hire me to come set up your security system. I have to make sure I have a license. There's bidding, like you said, uh, responsibility, accountability. So yeah, you're 100% right. On the backside of it, it gets a lot more complicated than just some parent watching a camera.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
And
100% a
then
good point.
and then who's responsible for that security? If it's the state, it's the state agency. And if you do it with a third party, what if they get hacked and now your child's information or this account and photos of your child and likeness are now available to anybody? So the
Yeah,
very
fair
thing you're
point.
trying to prevent is now available to the highest bidder. And
I think
that's,
that's a, that that's
everybody's nightmare.
I think that's the technical side of it. I think is the strongest argument against it. Not the moral side of actually being watched, but the financial side of it and the risk of security as far as the information getting out. I think those
Mm-hmm.
are the strongest
And
arguments against it.
yeah, and just add kids or children at the end of that, and then it's like, okay, it's sticky. Let's just not go there. Let's just not go there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. Now I'm kind of thinking the other way, that don't do it. Like,
Yeah.
that's not worth the risk, maybe.
Well, and it's interesting in the market, those same kids that we're trying to protect. I mean, they'll, if it's to get on Instagram with their friends, or that we don't give a rat's ass about privacy. When it comes to specific institution, oh my God, privacy is certainly an issue. But if it comes to getting an Uber, if it comes to getting our food delivered right to our door,
Yeah,
or
right.
getting a freaking pair of pants, just delivered to our doorstep in 24 hours, we don't care. Sure, take whatever you need. So there's irony in that. There's the back and forth. But again, if you do it through a state agency or a federal agency, there's a lot of red tape, and then there's a lot of liability, and that goes back to taxes, and that goes back, to funding. And in the end, there is zero guarantee. There is zero.
No, I think
And
those are all
then,
fair points.
and then let's say it does go into legislation. It's like, okay, we want it for this purpose. Well, now that we have a camera in the classroom, well, we can use it for this also. Now we're going to get AI is going to get algorithms on the teacher. Are you studying the topic? We're supposed to be studying the Constitution, not legalities of the Constitution. That's critical thinking. No, just go down the Bill of Rights and move on.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that.
No, I think that's valid arguments against it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So moving on.
Moving on.
Okay, so I brought this up in the chat at one point because the addiction I have is getting into arguments about politics on Facebook with people,
Mm-hmm.
and it never ends well. And so the burden of proof.
Mm-hmm.
We've discussed briefly in the past Russell's Teapot.
Mm-hmm.
To those who don't know what Russell's Teapot is, it was Bertrand Russell, right? I forgot his first name.
Yes.
It was Bertrand Russell. You sound very confident. Thank you.
I'm not a teapot connoisseur.
No worries. But Russell's Teapot was a philosophical concept where Eddie, I think you're familiar with it. If I asked you, if I told you there was a teapot floating in space orbiting the sun between Earth and Mars, would you believe me?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, okay. So if I believe you, it's like, well, I have no stakes in the matter. Well, so it's like, okay, so it's teapot. Good job.
For the point of the argument, generally speaking,
yeah,
no, you wouldn't believe.
Well, it's assumption of burden of proof, and people aren't accountable anyway, even if you got them dead to rights. And then there's the expectation behind anonymity. And this goes back to internet and stuff like that, and chat boards, where it's like, you can identify as anybody you want to, and if you want to have a belief system, you go through confirmation bias.
Of course, my point though was the point of the Russell's Teapot is, if you say no, I don't believe you, and I say prove me wrong, right? Proving a negative. And so, in your opinion, and because this has come up a lot with certain people I've talked to on the internet, which that aside, do you think the burden of proof lies in the person making the claim or the person disputing the claim?
It's the person. It's always the person making the claim. Claim this.
That's not always the case. That's what I'm talking about. The people I argue online.
That is the case. That is the case. What do you mean that's not always the case?
Because proving a negative is nearly impossible. So when someone says, "Here's my claim, prove me wrong," to me, morally, because it's not a black and white, yes or no, right and wrong. It's an opinion-based thing. We believe if you make the claim, you should have to verify that claim. We've talked about that before. But there are a lot of people out there, and I don't want to dip into politics, for example, but there's a lot of people out there that'll say, here is my belief, prove me wrong. And to me, I always just say, like, what we just said, why do you believe that? Do you have verification? Can you prove that? And a lot of times, I think we may have joked around about it before, that phrase, can you verify that, has become like this weird, it's not even a gotcha in my opinion. It's just, you're making this claim, can you verify it? And they're like, you prove me wrong. And it could be something as stupid. This is an example, and then I'll let you go. Let's say you were married, and I was like, Eddie, your wife's cheating on you. And you said, do you have proof? And I'm like, no, but can you prove she's not? Like, start thinking about, like, even my wife, like, can I account for everything she does every minute of the day?
Hmm.
No. When she's at work, I'm like, she's at work. And you're like, and you say, can you prove she's at work? Do you have a tracker on her car? Do you have a camera on her car? Do you know that she's at work? And I'm like, well, yeah, she went to work this morning. Do you know she went? It's like when you're proving the prove me wrong, prove
Well,
that wrong.
yeah, it's also speculation too. I
Well, it's
mean,
speculation, but that's the point of proving a negative. Can you prove that there's not a teapot floating in space? No. But you claim there was one. So that's where like
mhm.
we're in agreement. So it's gonna be a boring fucking conversation. But this
Yeah.
keeps coming up to where people drop these claims and I dispute them. I say, I don't think that's right. Do you have a link? Is there something? And then they get mad at me and say, do your own homework, do your own research, go look it up and prove me wrong. And I'm just
Hmm.
like, no, you made this claim. You're posting it on Facebook.
Well, you're also you're looking for lemonade in a sea of piss. I mean, what do you expect? You
I
know,
like that.
it's like, if these people already have confirmation biases, well, then you're wasting your time. I know you want to be intellectual, and it's just kind of the point, and you like critical thinking, but this not everybody does critical thinking, and again, it's scary because universities are teaching kids what to think, not how to think. I went to school learning how to think, and that was my very first college course I ever took. I was a junior in high school actually, and just took it at community college speech six, argumentation and debate, and that defined my entire college career. And that's just how to think about something. It's just how to think about a topic.
Yeah, that the whole teaching kids what to think, that must be new because when I went to college,
Mhm.
it wasn't like that. It was, I mean, in the theater courses, obviously it's gonna be super liberal, but in the other courses, it was very objective and not like here's what you're supposed to think.
Well, you
Um,
look at why, and you look at the contents of what's occurring on college campuses now. It's
well,
like, okay, I'm going to bring another argument. No, you're not. We're not even going to let you into our area. It's like a political club now. What about free ideas? Yeah, well, yeah, they're free if you think the same way we do. That's not critical thinking. That's the very fascism that they claim to hate, and they're it. You're it.
are you talking about like when they don't let like guest speakers come?
I'm talking about when the pro-Palestinian protesters don't let people who they think are Jewish or anybody not connected to their protest into their little area that is funded by California taxpayers and federal monies. That's
Well,
fascism. That's
do
not.
do we want to go down that road or do we want to stick to burden of proof?
But okay, that could go down to burden of proof. How far do you go back if you take that argument? We won't bring up any specifics, but if you take an argument and how far do you want to go back? Because in that argument, there's you could say a lot of back and forth, but then, and all of it can be true. Oh, you're killing babies. You're killing babies.
Well, the students aren't killing babies.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you could say both organizations, whether you're pro-Palestine, pro-Israel, are children getting killed under their watch? Yes. You, you
But
know,
I
prove
still
it.
like, yeah, so prove it. So no, like so no, and I agree. So if you make the claim, if I'm pro-Palestine and I make the claim that Israel is murdering babies, yeah, okay, so is there footage? Is there this? Is there that? Yeah.
There's a lot. Yeah,
Yeah,
on both
there's
sides.
tons. And then okay, I'm pro-Israel. I think not Palestinians, but Hamas was killing people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you have proof? Yeah, there's footage of October 7th. And other probably dozens of other footage of Hamas doing horrible shit. So yeah, like I mean, I don't. That's just yeah, like burden of proof. Like you make the claim, provide the evidence.
Or what happens when people don't like the proof that's given to them? Okay, these are the people who were taken out. We're going to put their faces on light poles just so you know that these are real people. And then you have another group of people come and taking them down. What? Because they were found? No, because they don't agree with that argument.
Well, so let's address that without the Palestinian, because I think the Palestinian argument it becomes more emotionally charged. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I think this is a great topic though. So if I claim this table right here is made of I don't know cedar. I don't know if I kind of fucking let's say cedar, and you're here and you're like I don't know that looks like pine to me. Can you prove it's cedar? Very low stakes, obviously. And so I open my book up of wood, the wood book,
Isn't
and
cedar a type of pine?
I don't know. I don't know shit about wood.
You open your book.
I opened my wood book because I'm sure those exist, and
Mm-hmm.
we're scrolling through it, and sure enough, it looks like this piece of wood with the stain. It has some examples in my little wood book of cedar with stain, and it looks pretty close. And then we scroll to the pine page, and the pine, there it kind of has some similarities, but not quite. So I'm like, okay, but based on these photos and our observations, I think it's pretty safe to conclude that it's pine. I'm sorry, it's cedar. And so you critical thinking, you go, okay, can I see the book?
Mm-hmm.
And you go to the author. Who's this author? This author is
James
John,
Wood.
yeah, James Woods. There you go, James Woods. And we're okay. So then we Google James Woods, and it turns out James Woods is a fucking math teacher in Wyoming who's never taken a carpentry class.
Mhm. Does
Then
that
so
mean he can't study wood?
it doesn't mean it, but that's my point though. So you if you and granted very low stakes here.
Mm-hmm.
But like so if we really want to keep going down this argument, okay, you go and you research James Woods. Turns out he never took a class in carpentry. He never studied wood. Even his brow I mean this is going down a fucking dumb hole, but even his browser history, he's never even like looked up wood. He just
Mm-hmm.
wrote this book and guessed. So then you could bring that back to me saying, hey, look it, those photos were convincing, but if we look at the author of this, he doesn't really know anything he's talking about. So that those pieces of wood might not be accurate. Now, my cognitive bias would be like, you're just doing an ad hominem on him. That doesn't mean what you just said. That doesn't mean he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But at least we're now actually analyzing it and going deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Well, that's an instance of looking at the person who wrote it rather than the data.
that's the ad
Because
hominem I'm talking about. Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah,
So
you could go out to your lawn, pick some grass, and if you go to India and they pick some grass up there, is it green? Does it have chlorophyll? Yeah, well, this one's longer. Well, does that not make it grass anymore? I mean, that's kind of scientific rigor. And I do
no,
see
100%.
I do see the issue. I do see what you're saying. And I think the root of it is that people just aren't accountable.
And they don't give a
If you bring up something that challenges a thought, you yourself are put through the ringer, and it's like, yeah.
so I was gonna say, so let's say you in this scenario, you go research James Woods and you find issue with his expertise. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so then what you could do, if we're really taking this wood shit seriously, you go and you actually find an accredited wood expert,
Mm-hmm.
and you find his book, and you bring that book to me, and we compare the two books of what actually is cedar and what's pine. And then we kind of go from there. Okay, compare their credentials, compare their studies, compare their backgrounds. Not attacking them, just compare their backgrounds. Maybe even getting a third one to break the tie,
Mm-hmm.
and then go from there. If we really cared about the wood, obviously we're talking about a metaphor for something else.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, and this is where I think it goes back to we've repeated this 1,000 times. The way people are brought up is not to think that way. Even granted, you and me weren't taught what to think; we were taught how to think. But we weren't taught how to deal with being challenged
Mm-hmm.
emotionally. I mean, like it's never really taught to where like I think I'm pretty humble enough to where if somebody provides information that counters what I believe, that I'll listen and I'll
Well,
possibly change my opinion.
I think two concepts are being kind of confused. There's the topic, is this cedar or is this not cedar? That's pretty clear. Now there's the way you feel. I'm attached to it, not believing that it's not cedar. Now prove me wrong. So yeah, there's no way around the emotion. But if it's scientific and it's studied and researched, I mean, that's what it is. That's what it
Oh,
is.
that's what I mean though. That cognitive bias to like even let's sit in this our wood scenario. Uh, um, you go and you have definitive proof it's not cedar,
Mm-hmm.
despite me thinking that James Wood's book is decisive. You go and you find indisputable that it's not cedar.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who will not accept that.
Yeah, that's their issue.
But that's kind of the point, and I think that goes to a broader problem
Mm-hmm.
of people not being able to deal with evidence and deal with verification and
Yeah,
deal with that. And granted,
confirmation bias.
yeah, confirmation bias. Yeah. But even I'll say this honestly, I think I may have said to you before that all that 23andMe shit. I have lived my life believing that I am of Scottish and Irish heritage, Celtic pride all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And my fear is if I take that fucking test and I come back like French and Polish, and
Mm-hmm.
I would be like, fuck. And so like I'll 100% say it, like I just don't want to deal with that truth.
Yeah.
It's harmless. It's harmless for me to believe what I believe about my bloodline. I'm just not going to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody did somehow get a blood sample and they brought me evidence saying you're
They have your
100%
health
Polish,
data now. Somebody has your health data. Somebody has your DNA. Okay. And you're
yeah,
just going to let it go.
well, that's a different issue. I'm like,
Yeah.
first of all, what the fuck? But second of all, if you brought me confirmation that like I'm French and Polish or some weird shit I don't like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to deal with it. Truth is
You don't
truth.
like French and Polish people?
I don't know. That's just always my
Is
go-to
that
when I think of like weak
okay?
bloodlines. Maybe it's World War II. I don't know. But yeah. And so anyway, back to it. The burden of proof. Maybe it's I was making a big deal out of it when it's really just a short conversation. But dealing with some of these people that behave that way, it's frustrating, and I don't know why I keep trying to engage.
Yeah.
Like you said, I do like having the good conversations, and when you engage with people who don't, who just want an echo chamber,
Mhm.
it gets frustrating.
Well,
And
you're
I'm
doing it on Facebook. Join Mensa or some shit, just do that. And
doing
then
what?
Mensa.
Mensa?
You need a specific IQ to qualify to get an MENSA. Yeah, look that up.
It's not like a
That's
social
your
media?
thing. No, this goes back. It's a smart people club.
Mensa?
And
Oh.
they do philosophical discussions like that. Or maybe you're just in the wrong damn culture. You know what? Go to England, go into a pub, and order a beer and just start talking to people about this kind of thing.
I'm sure
You
they'd
know?
love that.
Yeah, well, the older folks would. I don't know about the younger folks, but yeah, and it's a generational thing. It's like, yeah, you're right. People, when you've got helicopter parents, that just kind of yes and everything, because the parents, you want to make mommy and daddy happy, and if all mommy and daddy want are an echo chamber of their ideas, and you're, the little person, well, you're going to do that. And if somebody brings up something else and it's like, oh, my world is shattered. Well, my world can't be shattered. You're the jerk. You brought new facts into it. It's like, and I bet one thing you're not debating is if you hold your keys up and you let them go, are they going to stay up? Prove it. Okay, let me show you. I don't believe it. That's on you.
Like, well, yeah.
You know what the problem is? You don't have enough faith. You don't have enough faith that the keys aren't going to stay, because through faith, all things are accomplished. So let's try it with a lot more faith. I need faith in you. And if those keys don't stay up in the air, I've lost faith in you. That's how you end the argument. You know, you just bring it back to faith.
Ugh. Ugh.
It's faith versus science, But then is it the faith in your, and okay, let's talk about faith real quick. Is it the faith in yourself, or is it just you getting up every morning, doing what you got to do and getting the results you want? There's no faith in that. There's you getting up off your ass and doing what needs to be done faithfully.
Faith that you will get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And you have confidence. I'd say there's more confidence in faith.
Well, okay.
That's the same shit.
I don't have any, yeah, it's not confidence. If I walk south, I'm going to hit Argentina eventually. I don't need to be confident in that. You don't need to prove me wrong. You can come with me.
Yes, I do.
It's like that's what it is, but you're not, if you get into an argument with a wall, what,
No, I
or
agree.
Mark Twain, don't get into arguments with pigs. You get dirty and the pig likes it,
Yeah,
and that's what
I
you're
like that.
frustrated over.
I am frustrated over that. And I haven't learned my lesson.
Yeah, you have it.
It's one or two individuals who I've said to them, like, you're not even hearing. I kind of have a personal policy I've come up with recently that if we're having a discussion and I say A and you say B, and I'm like, okay, C, and you say B, and I go, okay, D, and you say no, B. If it's three times I counter you and you say the same thing again 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
we're done
Thank you
because
very
you're not
much.
listening. You're not listening.
Thank you very
You're not,
much. Yeah.
yeah. So that's kind of
I
my
heard
own
what you
personal
said.
policy now.
Yeah. Just, I heard what you said. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's all you need to say. Otherwise, in the famous words of your dad, knock yourself out.
Did my dad say that?
Yeah. Because he said somebody came into the Roadhouse, said, "Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to sue you." He's like, "Yeah, knock yourself out."
Yeah, sounds like him actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this is more a Glenny issue. With just getting,
It
just trying to
is.
find lemonade in a sea of piss. It's like, okay,
No,
knock yourself out. And
100% is my fault.
you're,
Yeah.
you're gonna find that you're gonna find that glass of lemonade somewhere, but there's a lot of other things you're
I'm
gonna
gonna have to drink a
find.
lot of other shit
Yeah,
first.
exactly.
Um,
Exactly. And you're looking in the wrong place, I think. Go to
Menza. I'm gonna
Reddit
look
or
that up.
someplace. And
Um,
yeah, Mensa.
all right, little easier topic, Eddie.
Hmm.
Talk about your audition.
Hmm. Well, it's a good time, and we've had auditions, and it was just going in and play, and I just went in kind of I guess just having fun. I got the sense that everybody's trying really hard to be presentational, and I just kind of went in there and it's like, I'm just gonna be me. Fuck it. It's like, okay, can you give us everybody else? Give us a relationship, give us a location that can fit on the stage. I was like, what's your favorite noun? You know, and just the meta laugh behind that. It's like that's the directors I want to work for because they get that. It's like, who asks that?
So
And
was this
then
audition for like an improv troupe or
improv.
for a play? Okay, got it.
It's for improv. You're not going in there. You're going in with sides. You give it, or if it's commercial, you're out in the hall reading copy, and trying to, really want to sell the Oldsmobile or something. But here it's just improv. These are games we've all played and learned on. Are you directable? And even more importantly, are you the essence of what we're trying to create as a director? So, and it's just
Hmm.
really the same games. And I don't know. It's not the denial that kills you, it's the hope. And I don't know.
Yes.
Part of me doesn't care, but part of me, because I wasn't even going to audition, I auditioned at somebody else's behest. I think I need more training and more ramp up. But then again, I learned from the groundlings. I took workshops just because you didn't need a headshot and you didn't need to audition. I auditioned only because I saw the class as therapy, and now my therapy's ended, so I can get a free session of therapy. And I go into the audition, and we learn this shit in class. And I just got a headshot at the last minute for $70. Yeah, I literally have a work shirt on, and then bada bing, bada boom, I'm in the regular curriculum. And guess what level 1 is? The same thing as the damn workshop. I took it again. I'm really good at level 1. And
It's
then,
braggable.
yeah, but yeah, as far as the audition today, it was interesting because there was some responsiveness because some people said they have been to improv auditions where there is no feedback, there's no laughing, there's no nothing. At
Ugh,
least of this audition, there was feedback. I
that's good.
just I was my best actor. My moment was there was a guy I had a class with, and we could have used they're going to watch this. Yeah, they're going to sit through all hours of going through privacy issues. But I wish we could have had some more direction because we were supposed to be doing a documentary and everybody left that. And because everybody else left that, I left it too. But my scene partner, he was really good. I've had him in a class and he latched onto that. Meanwhile, I checked out of that mentality. We're not talking to a documentary, we're in our own scene. Why? Because everybody else checked out. Bad choice on me. Guess those directors aren't going to like me. But if you say, this is what we're looking for, I don't care what everybody else has done or everybody else needs to get in line. This is what we're looking for. Let's start over. New suggestion. We needed that and we didn't get it. It's like, we gave you direction once. Okay, sink or swim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even
So
in
that's the
regular,
only thing I'm going talk about
yeah,
because he
even
was
in
in.
regular. Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
he was in the scene. I wasn't, and then I get home an hour and a half later and go, damn it. And that's what I could have done that better.
Oh, 100%. But that's what it is. Granted, I haven't done like an improv, at least for like an improv troupe or class, or whatever. But there were some auditions to where like, yeah, it's frustrating when you don't get the direction or the immediate feedback. Because like it's good to um, go on any audition to where like if it's a monologue, a cold read, whatever, you do it, and the director's like, okay, you did it like that. Let's do it again. This time, try it like this.
Mm-hmm.
Because at
Yeah.
least, because then you just said it already. At least you kind of know what they're going for now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if I read a monologue very quietly and somberly, and they're like, "Can you do it again, but with like a lot more energy and anger?" In my head, it's like, "Oh, this is like high energy. That's what
Mm-hmm.
they want." And so you can do it. And like now, the director is also seeing what you're actually doing the way they want it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it
It,
is frustrating when you don't get that extra. I don't know if I would say feedback, but direction.
Well, yeah, these are the people who are going to be directing us, and I flourish under that. And if
Hmm.
that's what you want, and if this is what they're not giving me, it shows them I'm a director, and even more importantly, it shows that actor is directable. Because
Yeah,
that's another thing they look for. It's like, okay, give me more of this. Are you executing or are you just going back to doing your own thing? And if you're doing that, it's not going to be a good fit for this because I have a vision, you know. But if the vision is amorphous, you can go in there and just like, oh, I didn't see. You put the director on their heels, and that I don't know. I kind of go in with that cavalier attitude. It's like I don't expect to get placed. So I'm just gonna have fun. And it's like, yeah, now, yeah, just give us because what that's showing to me, what I want to show the director is we don't need something special. We don't need something. I want to throw the audience off as much as they're giving. And I want to show
mhm,
how versatile I can be.
sure. Are
So
you an
whatever
improv? Are you an improv artist that goes for the laugh, or do you try to tell the story and get the laugh eventually?
it's I don't want to go for the laugh. I mean,
Good,
that is trite. I
good.
mean, there's elements there, and there's a belief of, you know, if you're standing in back and it's in a bayou, I'm not going to be fishing in that bayou. I'm off. The scene is yours. If I put myself into that scene, I'm bringing bait, or I'm a cousin who's, you know, who just caught a catfish or something. But if I'm off stage, I'm not going to make music or noise. That's not the modality I've raised in. If you want that as a director, your word's law. Your word's law. Tell me what you want. You know, that's not the way I see improv, though. I'd never go for the laugh. Just listening to each other and repeating it, there's comedy in that. You don't need to
I
be
agree.
in Mars. You don't need to be in Mars at a car. You know, if you're just going to the beach, some weird shit's going to happen, or you're going to make an observation. And if it doesn't, well, I guess that's what somebody who's cheated on me 5 times has said. Now prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. That's a
Fuck
good
you.
angle. I think I just squeezed the juice out of this podcast. It's like
Uh,
I'm going to use that. Yeah, prove me wrong. That's not a question. Now that puts the
Ooh, it's
onus
not a
on them.
question. It's not a
That
question.
that
You're
is
right.
not a question.
That could be its
Prove
own improv
me
game.
wrong. And then that's a gift to them because now
Oh, that's a ton.
that's
You're in it.
meat. That's
You're in a yeah.
I've
You,
held the radizio piece of meat.
you're in an improv scene, and someone says, "Hey, I think this table's cedar."
Oh, and
But
another thing too is like I just kind of a little hack to it. Somebody just off the cuff just say, "You always do this." Yeah, name 5 times. And then it's like, oh,
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And then you go through it, or
Well, that's what.
yeah,
So going back to like going for the laugh, I remember our friend DJ said once that like because he's one of the funniest people I know, and he
yeah,
never goes
yes.
for the laugh. He never tries to hit the punchline. And I
Mhm.
remember when I'm not sure if the lobby's still around, but when they were still doing the lobby improv shows in Orange County, it was a funny scene. No one said anything funny,
Mhm.
like as far as joking, but I forgot what it was. But it was something so mundane, like you said, going to the beach, and it was like a guy was. It wasn't that, but it was like maybe let's say a grocery store, and so a guy was sitting there and just like reaching up, and then somebody walked by pretending to push a cart, and he was like, "Oh, excuse me, can I?" He's like, "Oh, right here, yeah, right." And it was just so like mundane and boring, but just the simpleness of it was
Mhm.
very funny. Just watching like a grocery store interaction between two or three people, where it was just like reaching around each other to get. It wasn't the grocery store; it was something mundane like that, though, because no one was going for the laugh. A subtle story was being told, and it was just kind of funny observational humor.
Mhm. And that's all it should be.
Yeah, it
Yes.
was great. It was
You
great.
don't go for the laugh. I don't go for cheap laughs, you know, and then just being so in the zone today that, you know, it was like the noun somebody chose was automotive. And I don't know, I was just working with a car, you know, and then I was like doing oil and I was going to be, so, you know, it was about a special oil. And then my scene partner says, you're doing it wrong. And then it's like, fuck, he's doing instructional. I got to take this out of instructional. It's not doing right or wrong. And then I immediately shot back. Good. I immediately was shocked back off. You're always criticizing me, you know? So it's about
that's smart.
emotion. It's about us. It's
Smart,
not
yeah.
about the damn oil. And then, as you know, a sentence later, it's like, okay, here's why this oil is so special and whatever. And then threw him for a curve because he slammed my invention, something that I'd said for 15 years. And I'm just like, I was at a loss for words. How do I pivot this? I should blow up at him. And I was like, I think this relationship needs to change. And then I stood there for an awkward moment, trying to think of something. And then I got down on my knees and said, I'd like you to marry me. And then see, we'll never know if he said yes or not. I was kind of waiting, but we got to move on, you know? That's how it ended. So just, they wanted to see big choices. And if when in doubt, propose, or when in doubt, die, you know?
That's what should have happened. We need our
Yeah.
relationships to change. Ugh, just die.
And it's interesting being in front of an audience because the audience is pure. You know what's funny and you know what's not. So I don't want, you did a good Shakespeare, you know, because people say you're flexing when you do Shakespeare. Yeah, because I've done Shakespeare shit.
Fuck yeah, you're flexing when you're doing Shakespeare for a good reason.
Well, but then it's interesting because in a class, I was doing, it was Shakespeare and then a reinterpretation of that in in an American accent or an American dialect. So I'm doing, you know, kind of Shakespeare. It's not an iambic pentameter, but you know, I know the language. And then this guy's trying to do the Boston accent, and it was so absolutely bad that I was the setup, but his badness was getting all the laughs, you know? So it's like, okay, this is interesting over here, but we're about to laugh. So I was kind of teeing it up for this guy. Or maybe it's the contrast. I don't know. But yeah, I don't go for the laughs. If you tell me to do Shakespeare, I'm going to do Shakespeare. And but yeah, I can't tell how I did, and I don't expect to get anything. I thought it was 5 positions for 40 people. They're actually looking for 15. So there may be a glimmer of hope.
So I'll say a few things. One, I now want to hear a Shakespearean play. Pick one in a Boston accent. Everyone in Boston accents.
That would be awesome.
2, or maybe like Romeo and Juliet, where like the Montagues are Boston accent, and then like the Capulets are like New York. Anyway, 2. So you said there's one thing I was going to ask you about because we're talking about auditions now. So you said you kind of said like, I don't know how I did. I don't have a feeling about it. I think we may have discussed this before. When I was actively auditioning back in the day, I actually liked leaving an audition, and this is kind of weird twisted logic, but I think you'll know where I'm going with it. I sometimes liked leaving an audition knowing I'm not getting the part.
Oh, really?
Because and granted, I don't think our audition experience is different because I was actually in LA auditioning. It's more what you've done is more community theater, which is fine. But like there have been times where, and I'm not going to get down the rabbit hole of all my audition stories, where I auditioned for a part and I feel like I fucking nailed it. And even like the directors are like, that was awesome. There was one audition, we're going the whole story, but like I did it, and I was like I think the first audition of the day, and the director said, "That's how I like to start my day. That's how I like to start the audition." And I was like, yeah, and heard nothing.
And then crickets.
Yeah, because you know someone probably came in later that was better than me. It happens, but it would be like shit. To where again, I'm not going to like revisit old stories, but there were some auditions where I, for one reason or another, fucking bombed. And I walked out and I was like, well, I don't have to think about it.
I don't. Okay, next.
That's cut. I know what's going on. There was one time where I walked out going, I'm not getting a call. Cool. And then I got a call back. And then I bombed the call back.
That's awesome.
So
that's even better.
All right, cool. But what's your opinion on that kind of thing? Do you like leaving the audition confident, or is there a almost peace in knowing that you're not getting that?
It's good. Well, you want to do your best work, and it's interesting doing auditions down here because a lot of the people know me already. I've been in a class with them, or they've seen me perform. To me, it's all about reps. I like doing it. And you know, if you like it, do it. And if you really like it, do it twice. And I'm all about the reps. I'm all about the practice and the performance. There's just something so pure about an audience. Now, and I want to be my best actor. I always go out. I audition for a reason. But then, if it's not my, yeah, okay, there's a case in point. I'll admit it. I just, level 2 of the groundlings, I was like, I'm not going to do this in 3 days. I don't, I'm no. So I went in, I went in with a mentality where this is a learning experience. I went in there and I didn't go down. I went down in flames. I did an impression of Howie Mandel's, freaking stand-up act. And it
Ooh,
was, yeah,
ooh.
I was that low. And then thinking about it now after taking like real acting classes, okay, they want that level. So, and I'll give this something to you because there's doing voices like this, and talking like this or having an English accent, those are voices. Now, doing all those voices and being able to cry, being able to be scared, being able to like you just won the lottery, falling in love with that voice and with that character, that's the character with that perspective. That's what the groundling's looking for. Like five different characters, different walks of life, completely independent, different perspectives. And that's the intensity that if I don't do it now, they're going to see it in the big auditions in the fall anyways. So that's the
Mhm.
route I'm going. And that's what I need to work on because I can do the voices, but getting that character to cry, getting that, character to sell apples and what have you, that's what I need to work on. And that's what I really look forward to, and that's how I know I love the art. I just like doing this shit.
Sure. Well, yeah, even from like a non-improv actor's perspective, I always had that opinion about dialects
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just openly I've never been good at doing dialects on the fly. Like I took a class in college where like you actually could get your script and make marks and annotations on how to do certain dialects. But like you said, it's kind of that idea of either knowing it, either having it memorized or knowing it by heart. Because if you have it memorized, you're going to say it a certain one way. If you know it by heart, you could change it because you know it so well.
Mm-hmm.
And your example was certain voices. My example was dialects. But if I just study the script with the dialect this way, it's going to be one way. And if they
Mm-hmm.
want me to change that, I'm going to have to probably go back to the script and figure out how to, even though the dialect's the same, figure out that character. And that's where I'm relating to you, like with the voice comparison. Um, But yeah, so it's always interesting, especially with improv, because I think, granted, you've gone down the improv road much farther than I have.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think a lot of people understand the intricacy of improv. I think a lot of people just think you just go up there and you do it on the fly, and some people are good at it. It's like, no, there's actually a lot of study.
There's a framework behind it.
Yeah, there's a
There's an
lot to it.
algorithm. Mm-hmm.
100%. Um,
And you've got to do it on the spot, whereas like it's a slow down and you go over it. If you have a script in front of you, you go over it with a fine tooth comb. And Daniel Day-Lewis signing the contract, signing the agreement that he's going to do, there will be blood. It's like, okay, I'll see you in a year,
yeah.
because he's going over it with a fine tooth comb and it shows what's the final product,
Mhm.
and be able to arrive at that and then not, and to be able to, here's my challenge, not be intimidated by the people who are up there and practicing all the time. Because I have a teacher who I completely respect, and uh, the indie team I'm in now, uh, she left like, yeah, because she was busy, but she was cast into the show that this teacher I really like in. So just the association intimidated me, and I shouldn't have let that happen. One practice and it's over, but still, it's just, when you got respect. And then the first show I do in front of an audience since before the pandemic, it's versus that teacher. It's a cage match, two teachers, the teacher I just got done with a class with, who I have oodles and oodles respect, who's done groundlings, done UCB, others types of study. And I got to be funnier than he is, or our team has to. And the only way you
Yeah.
could do that, and I was told up front, is to be able to, you got to stack the audience. There's no way. There's no way. And the applause, because we turn around and they do the applause, it sounded close. And that's only because we stuck through the audience. But then again, it's a moral issue because, yeah, I want to do it fair. Okay, fair. He's fucking, I know. So it was just a pleasure to just be on that stage,
No, sure. And any cage match and those improv things, of course, it's stacking the audience. Like that,
Yeah.
even if you're objectively better than other people, like you're gonna try to stack the audience.
Yeah, well, and trouble is going up against that duo it's like the rest of the audience is just going to look at you and go, "You're out of your freaking mind," and they're gonna yell and pound on walls saying that's BS. You know who won?
And
You know,
even
so
your friends were like, yeah, I know you invited me and thanks for the invite, but uh,
I gotta go down that road too. I
yeah,
gotta go down that road too. If I'm in the audience and I'm there to support you, and it's just like it's a boxing gym. It's like, okay, who's on the floor last? The guy standing wins. That's it. And comedy's the same way.
yeah. I remember going back to the lobby guys. I remember they had it wasn't the lobby per se, but that group they had like a cage match they would do like once a week or something, and there was like the reigning champions in this, and the reigning champions at the time was a team comprised of some of the lobby guys,
Mm-hmm.
and this other team came in and they did it and they got the bigger applause objectively,
Mm-hmm.
but like everyone knew like the lobby team was better. And
Mm-hmm.
even after it was because you went to a couple like you knew that theater
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
stages,
Yeah.
and so afterwards everybody's kind of hanging out in the lobby talking. I overheard it wasn't DJ, but I overheard some one of the guys in the lobby team talking to the other team, and he's like, "Yeah, you guys like great job, congrats on the win." And the guy was like, "Did we really win though?"
Yeah. That would
Even
have been
they
me.
knew they
That would
knew
have been me.
he
That
was
would have
like,
been me.
"Did we
It's
really
like,
win?"
okay, we had two church groups and some family of some of the other people. And it's like, yeah, that's my feeling. That would have been my feeling too. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, all we did was stack the audience. We didn't win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I did enjoy that interaction. So it's like, okay, at least this guy knows.
Mm-hmm.
Like he knows. I remember I had a dream one day. I forgot the context where like I somehow, dreams that somehow I got randomly cast in a small part in a movie. And so I showed up to set not knowing a lot about it. And like Samuel L. Jackson was like my counterpart in the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, comparing it to your thing, I remember thinking like, oh, am I going to be able to act good enough to be across the room from Samuel L. Jackson? I remember it was like almost a nightmare because I was like freaking out. I couldn't remember lines. It was just one of those absurd dreams. But I remember just having that feeling, like you said about that person, like this person I respect, great at what they do, professional, and now my mediocrity I was just like, oh, and it was like a nightmare where I was like, oh, that'd be awful, and I hope if that
Well,
ever did happen, I'd be fine. But in the nightmare or the dream, it was awful.
yeah, well, then again, that's all mental. So if you're
Yeah,
so, getting out of that as an actor, it shouldn't matter. As an actor, Matt, you're not going to be talking to Samuel L. Jackson. You're never going to do that. You are going to be
ooh,
talking
touche.
from that character who's across from you. And every single reaction needs to be about this situation, the way you feel about your character and that character sitting across from you. That's not Samuel L. Jackson,
Look at you, theater professor.
you know? A couple classes does amazing things.
Indeed. But yeah, I'm happy to hear that. I think you in the chat you said audition posts. What'd you say?
There's a callback. They're going to do the callback June 7th, and then final notice is June 10th.
Gotcha. And you said this is for an improv troupe or like an improv like
There
program.
were so this theater has several shows. The shows that needed people, the directing and casting elements were in that, and some of them are brand new shows. Some of
Gotcha.
them are just people need to rotate out. And interestingly enough, I knew a lot of the people. It's like just being in classes because it's a small world down here.
I
It's
was
a
gonna say yeah. In
very
San Diego, you probably a small community.
even if you go to other schools, it's like you still know the people there, you know.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, it's not
paid
like
gig or
LA.
is it a community gig?
It's it's a community. I don't expect to be paid. I do want it to be all volunteer because it's a learning process for me. And yeah, I don't want to be paid. It's a community gig, whether I like it or not.
Nothing wrong with that. I think that's
No, I don't.
good.
I'm not looking. This is not a paycheck. This is me screaming with my life. I like doing this.
That's why we do this.
Absolutely.
I just enjoy it.
Hmm.
Um, all right. Well, I think we can come back one day and do another full episode on literally just audition stories alone.
This is true.
Lord knows I have plenty.
And I think Mitch will come in on that one. He won't
Oh,
have a
he
choice.
should come in on that one. I'm
Hmm.
sure he has a lot of
I
stories.
remember this audition that did it. I did it at Victoria Gardens, and it was a Shakespeare play. I'm in a lot of those. That was a bad impression of Mitch.
That I could hear Mitch in that. It wasn't the best impression, but I could hear Mitch in that.
I bet he does a better impression of me than I do of him. I can guarantee that. He did a
What
really good impression of you.
what
Oh,
I hate
dude.
about Mitch, I heard. What I hate about Mitch is that he doesn't do the impression of someone in front of them.
Yeah, he's
I
like Walt
remember,
Disney. Yeah.
yeah, I remember you guys said like, "Oh, Mitch had a great impression of you," and I was like, "I want to hear it." Mitch was like, I can no, no, and I was
It
like, "What?
embarrasses him.
What?" I was like, "Come on," and he's like, "No, I'm not going to do it in front of you." I was like,
Yeah. Well,
"Fucker."
he's not a real player. It's like Rich Little will did an impression of Johnny Carson at his roast right in front of him.
Sure,
Audience ate it up. Johnny ate it up. Come on, Mitch. Tell us what you got.
I'm going to tag Mitch when we post this.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, well, yeah,
All right. Good show.
good show, good talk.
Yep, indeed.
And then we'll see you next time, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Next time, everybody, you take care and break a leg if you're auditioning.
Recording stopped. Stop recording. There we go.